Hello YouTube, Shadow Hero 90 here, and welcome to my show, Sexism in Movies and TV. You see, there is a reason why I do this show. Now, despite the fact that a lot of the stuff I review is for adults, a lot of the stuff I rip apart is aimed at kids. And truth be told, boys do not get good role models out of these shows. In fact, growing up on schlock like this actually runs the risk of your typical young man growing up with very low self-esteem and possibly coming to hate himself when he reaches adulthood. And that's why I do this show, to expose the hypocritical and unbelievable level of hatred thrown at both boys and men through both movies and TV, in the hopes of making a difference. Okay, in this episode of Sexism in Movies and TV, we'll be doing our second Bitch Monster segment, and originally this was supposed to go to the daughter of the family, Lisa, but that might take a little too long, and I decided to do her grandmother first. But yes, I will eventually get to Lisa Simpson, and with that said, let's start the review. They erected a tombstone for him, and he accidentally fell into his fake grave, where his mother finds him. After seeing his mother for the first time in 23 years, he brings her home to see the family. And this is where Abe Simpson's horrible parenting skills are brought into the picture. He'd rather tell his son that the boy's mother ran away after pulling some asinine jackass hippie stunt than letting this act of chivalry might explain why Homer never punishes Lisa and will let Marge off the hook after every asinine thing she does, regardless of how he has to pay for it. And it kind of portrays Mona as a spoiled ingrate. I mean, this man essentially works hard to support the family, and she goes and pulls this stunt. But Abe Simpson is a terrible father for not telling his son the truth. This woman truly does care about the planet, the environment, and feminism than her own son and the rest of the family. So anyways, at the end of the episode, Homer has his mom sent away after Mr. Burns called the cops, just so she doesn't have to face consequences to her actions. And it's weird that Homer doesn't actually convert into a sexist after this episode. Because if this happened to me, I would be viewing women as the scum of the earth. And yeah, she doesn't come back until season 15. Okay, in the episode My Mother the Carjacker, Homer starts becoming obsessed with newspapers for some reason I don't remember. He actually finds a message she planted in the paper to meet him again. They do meet, and it looks like she might actually come home and become part of their family. But Mona is eventually arrested and put on trial. But for a reason I can't remember, she actually is found not guilty. And I'm not sure, but I think this is where Abe comes clean and says that it was better to tell him that she died than tell him his mother was a convicted criminal. And this does pull Abe into the wrong. Now, it's clear that Homer has abandonment issues. That and the 1950s way that his father raised him essentially made it, well, Homer kind of has a warped view of relationships. Like I said, he never punishes Lisa, and he lets Marge off the hook every time she does something screwed up. But when Mona uses one of her aliases to sign some sort of contract or something, I forget what it is, as Mr. Burns knew she would, the FBI shows up and arrests her. Yeah, people like to say Mr. Burns is a villain, but he's actually the hero of this episode, as he's actually bringing an actual criminal to justice. Homer tries to break her out, but she does do the right thing, sacrificing herself to save Homer, which was the only good thing we saw her do throughout this episode. Homer thinks she's dead and kicks over Frank Grimes' tombstone, but then gets a message from her saying that she's alive. Which she is when she should be in jail. Mona returns one more time in the episode Mona Leaves an A. This is the episode where this bitch dies. After coming home one final time, Mona actually acts like she wants to spend time with her family. And surprisingly enough, for once in Homer's entire life, he actually acts realistically towards his mom. He's pissed at her. And I definitely see why. This jackass cared more about liberalism than her own son. And as she's looking at the photos, she actually sees what she did to him by leaving. So anyways, Mona dies for real this time. And she leaves behind stuff for the family to use in an actual stupid liberalism hippie mission that they actually go through with. The family actually goes through with. And this is actually surprising that Homer would do this. You see, Homer's doing this in memory of his mother. The mother who abandoned him and was the source of him turning into, or in this case growing into, a fat, bald, irresponsible wino, all so she could run from responsibility and continue pulling hippie stunts. But his father is actually partly to blame, as he didn't tell Homer the truth. And it's kind of weird that Homer even honors the memory of his jackass mother who walked out on him and his father. I mean, logically, you'd think Homer, after learning about who his mother was, would actually try to piss her off. And it's completely unrealistic that Homer is actually accepting of his mother until the second time she came back. I mean, logically speaking, if we are following the Homer is Homer, technically, I mean, shouldn't Homer want to piss his mother off for running out on him? I'm just saying, if The Simpsons was not written with an anti-male agenda in mind, Homer would be constantly going through the episode Mona Leaves an A, trashing the environment, treating Marge like property, and doing anything he can that he knows would piss her off. And since Mona's such an environmentalist, so much so that she left her family for it, I could see Homer using, I don't know, driving his car, guzzling gas, essentially doing anything he can to wreck the planet as a form of therapy. And since he knows that his mother was such a environmentalist and she ran from responsibility because of an environmentalist stunt she pulled that was illegal, I don't see why Homer would turn to polluting the planet as a form of therapy. He has mommy issues. He can cope by essentially making as big a mess as humanly possible and raping the environment. Making sure that trees get chopped down. Having the entire family drive cars that would guzzle up gas and pollute the environment. And siding with Mr. Burns, the the man who wanted Mona in jail in the first place, 'cause he was the one she crossed. And in season 20, we find out that the fact that Abe and Mona's marriage was on the rocks is the reason that Homer's such a fat tub of lard now. Because he was burying his emotions in his food and eating them, or something to that extent. Just like in the last Bitch Monster segment, when I ripped up Wendy Testaburger, Mona Simpson also has a page on the Heroes Wiki website. Which kinda convinces me that the internet has no fucking clue what a hero is. Heroes do not break the law and run from responsibility. Heroes don't abandon their kids. And FYI, for anyone living in the real world, hippies and feminists are not heroic. In short, Mona Simpson is a piece of trash. She's an absolute cunt. This bitch left her second-born after giving her firstborn away. And she is the reason why Homer is as fucked up as he is. If she actually stayed in his life, Homer's life would be way different, and he maybe not even be with Marge, who actually is the dysfunctional one in that relationship. And he might actually have kids who like him. And in ending this review, I'm just going to say that Mona Simpson is a prime example of why chivalry is bad. And I really hope it is dead.